biggest concern is that your view has the First Amendment hamstringing the government.
But listen to what she had to say. Listen to what she thinks of free speech. Again, she's just saying the quiet part out loud, like all of these radical leftists.
You know, if you catch it a day later,
what?
The harm is done.
Check out the links in the description for my favorite apparel, Bibles, books, commentaries, and more. Howdy, y'all. I'm Brylan. All right, let's start this video off with the joke of the day. This one comes to you from, oh, look at that, Commie Law Harry. She actually posted this just a couple of days ago. These are pictures of her at our southern border, walking with border agents. And you can see here, oh, she's having a very serious conversation with one of them. And she says, as president, I will secure our border, disrupt the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, and work to fix our broken immigration system. All right, I got to say that this was absolutely hilarious. Good job on the joke, Commie Law. You know, the border isn't the only thing that Commie Law is lying about. She's also lying about, well, literally everything else that comes out of her mouth. But in this video, I'm going to show you how she's lying to you, and the whole radical left, or should I just say the left, is lying to you about our freedom of speech. You know, it's funny because the way liberals think is if we can get rid of Christianity, if we can jail conservatives, if we can take life in the womb, if we can abolish the Constitution, end the Electoral College, stack the Supreme Court, open the border, ban voter ID, and censor speech, then we'll save democracy. You know, I'm not one of those people that thinks that it's too late for America. I have hope that God can save America. But let's not pretend that it's going to happen by us sitting back and doing nothing. I'm going to show you videos, recent videos of these top radical leftists, including Commie Law and Timmy AWOL and AOC, that have talked about what your freedom of speech, what the First Amendment, including Bill Gates and a special Supreme Court justice that has come out and talked about how your freedom of speech doesn't matter and their plans to do away with it. My hope is that this video can better help you understand the left's view on the First Amendment and how absolutely radical their agenda truly is. Hey, real quick, would you hit that thumbs up button? You know, when you like this video, to get pushed out to more people, and it would really help spread the truth. First of all, take a look at this video by John Kerry. This is the climate czar for Biden. Really pay attention to what he says here. At the World Economic Forum. It's a disgusting place where elites get together and talk about, well, how to control you.
I think the dislike of and anguish over social media is just growing and growing and growing. And it's part of our problem, particularly in democracies, in terms of building consensus around any issue. It's really hard to govern today. You can't, there's no, the referees we used to have to determine what's a fact and what isn't a fact have kind of, been eviscerated to a certain degree. And people go and then people self-select where they go for their news or for their information. And then you just get into a vicious cycle. There's a lot of discussion now about how you curb those entities in order to guarantee that you're going to have, some accountability on facts, et cetera. But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick, and has an agenda, and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence. So what we need is to win the ground, win the right to govern by hopefully having, winning enough votes that you're free to be able to implement change. Now, obviously, there are some people in our country who are prepared to implement change in other ways. And that's
questioning
what?
If democracy can survive unregulated social media?
I think democracies are very challenged right now and have not proven they can move fast enough or big enough to deal with the challenges that we are facing. To me, that is part of what this race, this election is all about.
Make no mistake about what he is saying here. You heard him at the end, that this election is about taking your freedom of speech away. I've said this many times in many videos, that their democracy is not your democracy, it is their democracy. That's the point. When they say our democracy, they're not including you. John Kerry is the climate czar for Biden, or was, and still very much plays a role in the radical left agenda. He's saying that the First Amendment gets in the way of their ability to get rid of dissenting thought, to get rid of those who say things that aren't approved by them. You are not allowed to think. You are not allowed to say things. You are not allowed to speak in such a way that disagrees or goes against the radical left agenda. Listen to what AOC, basically mirroring, echoing the same sentiments as John Kerry. Again, remember, these people have a lot of power within our government, and they're telling you what they're going to do if commie law becomes president.
Several members of Congress in some of my discussions have brought up media literacy, because that is a part of what happened here. And we're going to have to figure out how we rein in our media environment so that you can't just spew disinformation and misinformation. It's one thing to have differing opinions, but it's another thing entirely to just say things that are false. And so that's something that we're looking into.
That's something that we're looking into. What is disinformation? What are these buzzwords that the left keeps using? That's what they are. They're buzzwords. They don't mean anything. Well, actually, the true definition of them, they won't tell you this, but the actual definition of misinformation, hate speech, all the things that they disagree, are just things they disagree with. That's all it is. And again, she's mirroring the same sentiment as John Kerry here, of saying that they're looking into how to rein in speech that they don't like and how to control the masses and what we, as a constitutional republic, as Americans, are allowed to say. It's exactly how the left weaponizes its power to control you. And never forget this, that even the woke leftists will be eaten by their own if we lose the ability to freely speak in America. Because even the left, even the woke, the radical leftists, they will not be leftist enough. They will not be woke enough. They will not be radical enough. You will never, ever be woke enough to satisfy the machine. In fact, speaking of there's no free speech for hate speech, listen to Timmy AWOLs over here. Listen to what he had to say. Remember, this is going to be the vice president of the United States of America if commie law wins.
I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy.
Oh man, he said all the buzzwords. That video was it was 8 seconds long, and he said all of them. There's no right to free speech for misinformation, for hate speech, especially around our democracy. Not yours, theirs. It's their democracy, and they will control it with an iron fist that squashes, terminates, destroys anything and everything that goes against the radical left agenda. In fact, listen to this monster, Billiam Gates. This is one of the worst. This man is a terrible vessel of destruction. And He is a part of a huge cabal that wants to destroy humanity. And I'm not overstating that. I'm not trying to sound scary or anything. Remember, we have hope. Just because this man's a monster and wants to destroy humanity doesn't mean that he's going to succeed. But again, listen to how he forms the view on how free speech is actually dangerous.
We should have free speech, but if you're inciting violence, if you're causing people not to take vaccines,
wow,
where are those boundaries that even the U.S. Should have rules? And then if you have rules, what is it? Is there some AI that encodes those rules because you have billions of activity, and if you catch it a day later, the harm is done.
We should have free speech. However, we should not have free speech. That is basically summing up what he said there. That free speech shouldn't cover things like inciting violence. What is inciting violence? Well, remember, it's the left that redefined what violence is. They have included the definition of words under violence. So they want you to think that saying something that hurts someone's feelings, even if you're just telling the truth, if you're just saying something in a nice way, you're just telling someone the truth, but they don't want to hear it, you just committed an act of violence by speaking. Nothing physical. You're not causing any harm physically. You're just speaking violence at that person and committing an act of violence. So when he talks about inciting violence, remember, it's monsters like this. It's the leftist elites that have redefined violence to include speech so that they can crack down on free speech and take your ability to speak freely away. Now, before I show you the Supreme Court justice that doesn't like free speech, I want you to take a little look-see-daisy at something that who could potentially be the next president of the United States. God forbid that happens. But listen to what she had to say. Listen to what she thinks of free speech. Again, she's just saying the quiet part out loud, like all of these radical leftists.
Will put the Department of Justice of the United States back in the business of justice. We will double the Civil Rights Division and direct law enforcement to counter this extremism.
Wow.
We will hold social media platforms accountable for the hate infiltrating their platforms because they have a responsibility to help fight against this threat to our democracy.
Wow.
And if you profit off of hate, if you act as a megaphone for misinformation or cyber warfare, if you don't police your platforms, we are going to hold you accountable as a community.
Do you understand the significance of what commie law Harry just said? Do you know how deep this goes? Remember, this is the woman that said that she has never, ever changed her values. Nothing that she believes today has changed. And so in this clip, she is speaking something that she will try and most likely be able to implement into the United States of America. Talking about policing social media because someone says something on X or whatever the site that they don't agree with. You're seeing this over in Europe. How literally speech on Facebook saying, I don't agree with what the government is doing right now. It could put you in jail. Not could, it will. The police will come to your house, take you from your home, and lock you in a cell for saying you don't agree with the government on social media. That's exactly what commie law is saying here that she will do. In fact, just in case you didn't quite understand what the point she was trying to make.
And it should be taken down. And the bottom line is that you can't say that you have one rule for Facebook and you have a different rule for Twitter. The same rule has to apply, which is that there has to be a responsibility that is placed on these social media sites to understand their power. They are directly speaking to millions and millions of people without any level of oversight or regulation. And that has to stop.
We need more oversight, more regulation, because you are not trusted to be able to speak freely. That's what commie law is saying here, that she will implement commie-type laws in order to suppress your speech. The entirety of the left believes this exact same thing. Give them power and they will prove it to you. And you won't like it so much. In fact, here's a Supreme Court Justice, Ketanji Jackson, talking about free speech. Listen to how insane this is.
My biggest concern is that your view has the First Amendment hamstringing the government in significant ways in the most important time periods.
Wow.
I mean, what would you have the government do? I've heard you say a couple times that the government can post its own speech, but in my hypothetical, kids, this is not safe, don't do it, is not going to get it done. And so I guess some might say that the government actually has a duty to take steps to protect the citizens of this country, and you seem to be suggesting that that duty cannot manifest itself in the government encouraging or even pressuring platforms to take down harmful information. So can you help me? Because I'm really worried about that, because you've got the First Amendment operating in an environment of threatening circumstances from the government's perspective.
Wow.
And you're saying that the government can't interact with the source of those problems.
This is a Supreme Court justice, probably the most radical Supreme Court justice to ever sit on the Supreme Court. And she just told you that the First Amendment is in the way of the government being able to crack down on your freedoms. Can you believe that? This woman is another radical leftist, and there will be many more of these. If you give commie law power and Timmy AWOLs power, they will try to expand the Supreme Court and add many more judges that will shift the opinion to the radical left, and they will put justices in the Supreme Court that will be far more radical than Ketanji Brown Jackson. Yet, listen to what she has to say. That she does not like your free speech because it hinders her ability in the government, her ability to control you. Now, imagine that completely unfettered. And if we, as American citizens, with our freedoms, continue to mock God and spit in the face of God, and turn our faces from him, then he will turn his face from us, and you will truly see what it's like to live outside of the favor of God. And that is a terrifying thing. Just look at Proverbs chapter 29 with me, real quick. This is, look at verse number 2 here. When the righteous increase, the people rejoice. But when the wicked rule, the people groan. We cannot live under wicked rulership and rejoice or have peace or truth. None of that. You will groan. Or you could also put here, you will cry out in despair. You will sob. But it's when righteousness increases. And true righteousness can only be found when you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior and allow the Holy Spirit to live in you and act through you. Then the people will rejoice when we live righteously as a people. But hey, let me know your thoughts about all this in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, join this community. I would love to hear from you on a regular basis. And please, hit that thumbs up button as well. You know, when you like this video, it'll get pushed out to more people and it would really help spread the truth. All right. I'll see you in the next video.